What if the reason you found this message today is not because you were looking for it, but because someone, somewhere, needs what God placed inside you? What if the encouragement you thought was insignificant, the kindness you almost stopped giving, or the words you have been afraid to speak, could become the very thing that helps someone keep going? Chosen one, listen carefully, because you may be standing closer to your purpose than you realize. There are moments in life when you feel as though nothing you do matters. You pray, but the answer seems delayed. You give, but nobody seems to appreciate it. You encourage others while secretly wondering who will encourage you. You show up for people, yet when you need someone, the room suddenly becomes quiet. And after enough disappointment, you may begin asking yourself, why am I even here? What is my purpose? Does my life really make a difference? But God sees what people overlook. He sees the moments when you helped someone and never received credit. He saw the time you listened when you were tired. He saw the tears you wiped away in private so you could be strong for someone else. He saw every time you chose kindness when you had every reason to become bitter. None of those moments were wasted. You may not see the impact of your obedience immediately, but that does not mean there is no impact. Sometimes God places you in someone's life for a season because there is something they need to experience through you. Maybe they need encouragement. Maybe they need someone to remind them that they are not alone. Maybe they need to hear a simple truth that brings them back to hope. And sometimes you may be the person God uses, not because you are perfect, but because you are willing. You do not have to be famous to be useful to God. You do not need thousands of followers. You do not need a perfect life. You do not need to know every answer. God has always used ordinary people who were willing to say yes. A simple conversation can carry enormous meaning. A small act of generosity can change someone's entire day. A sincere prayer can become a source of strength for someone who feels forgotten. Think about how many times someone said something to you at exactly the right moment. Perhaps they did not realize how deeply their words affected you. Maybe they thought it was just a normal conversation, but you carried those words for years. That is how God can work through people. You might be someone's unexpected reminder that there is still goodness in this world. You might be the person who encourages them not to give up. You might be the person who listens without judging. You might be the person who shows patience when everyone else has walked away. And, chosen one, perhaps that is why you have survived some of the things you thought would destroy you. Your difficult seasons may have taught you compassion. Your disappointments may have taught you patience. Your loneliness may have taught you how valuable genuine connection really is. The battles you survived may have given you a deeper understanding of people who are silently struggling. Your pain does not automatically mean God caused that pain, but God can bring purpose from what you have endured. There are things you understand now because of what you have been through. You recognize hidden sadness because you have experienced your own. You notice when someone is pretending to be okay because you know what it feels like to smile while your heart is hurting. That sensitivity can become a gift when you surrender it to God. But there is something you must understand. Being used by God does not mean chasing every person, fixing every problem, or carrying everyone's burdens on your shoulders. You are not someone's savior. Jesus is. Your role is simply to be willing when God gives you an opportunity to love, encourage, serve, forgive, or speak truth with grace. Sometimes the opportunity will be obvious. Someone may call you unexpectedly. Someone may open up to you. Someone may ask for advice. Someone may simply sit beside you in silence because they do not know how to explain what they are feeling. And sometimes the opportunity will be incredibly small. A smile, a message, a prayer, a few minutes of listening, a word of encouragement. You may think, that cannot possibly matter. But never underestimate what God can do with something small when it is given with a sincere heart. The Bible reminds us that we are called to be a light. Light does not need to shout to prove that it exists. It simply shines. In the same way, you do not have to force your purpose. You do not have to convince everyone that you are important. Walk faithfully and allow God to place you where your presence can make a difference. Maybe you have been asking God, show me my purpose. And perhaps His answer begins with something much simpler. Love the person in front of you. Before the big assignment, there may be a small act of obedience. Before the public testimony, there may be a private decision to remain faithful. Before the door you have been praying for opens, there may be someone standing nearby who needs the kindness you have been carrying. Do not become so focused on where you are going that you ignore who God has placed beside you. There may be someone waiting for an encouraging word, someone waiting for forgiveness, someone waiting for reassurance, someone waiting for a reminder that their story is not over. And you may never know that they were waiting for you. That is why you cannot allow rejection to convince you that you are useless. You cannot allow loneliness to convince you that you have nothing to offer. You cannot allow one person's failure to recognize your value to make you question the purpose God has given you. Your worth was never determined by people's applause. God knows your heart. He knows what you carry. He knows what you have survived. He knows the love you have tried to give, even when you were running low yourself. And if He gives you another opportunity to help someone, do not immediately assume that it is an inconvenience. Pause, pray. Listen, maybe that moment is more important than you realize. Chosen one, your purpose may not always look dramatic. It may not come with a sign in the sky or an announcement that everyone can see. Sometimes purpose looks like showing up. Sometimes it looks like staying patient. Sometimes it looks like telling someone, you are going to make it. Sometimes it looks like choosing compassion when bitterness would be easier. And perhaps one day, someone will look back at one ordinary moment with you and realize that God used that moment to keep them moving forward. You may never receive credit. You may never hear the full story, but God will know. So keep your heart open. Keep your eyes attentive. Keep your spirit humble. Do not underestimate the power of your presence, your words, your prayers, and your kindness. Because somewhere along your path, there may be a person whose life is about to intersect with yours for a reason. And when that moment comes, I pray you recognize it. Not because you are trying to be someone's hero, but because you are willing to be God's instrument of love. Maybe you have been wondering why certain people keep crossing your path, why certain conversations happen at unexpected moments, or why you suddenly feel the need to reach out to someone you have not spoken to in a long time. Chosen one, do not assume every moment is meaningless. Sometimes an ordinary encounter becomes an opportunity to show the love, patience, and compassion God has been developing inside you. Someone may be waiting for what God placed inside you, not necessarily because they know your name, not necessarily because they are searching for you, and not necessarily because you have been given some dramatic sign. Sometimes someone is simply waiting for encouragement, kindness, wisdom, forgiveness, or a listening ear, and God may allow your paths to cross at exactly the right moment. You may be the person who reminds them not to give up. You may be the person who listens when they have nobody else to talk to. You may be the person who speaks hope into a situation that has become filled with fear. You may be the person who chooses patience when someone expects rejection. You may be the person who forgives when holding on to resentment would be easier. Never underestimate what one moment of genuine love can do. You might send a message that takes 30 seconds to write, yet that message could reach someone on a day when they desperately needed encouragement. You might pray for someone without ever telling them, and that prayer could become part of a story you may never fully understand. You might simply sit beside someone who is hurting and give them the comfort of not being alone. This is why you should stop believing that your purpose has to be spectacular before it can be meaningful. God can use the small things. A conversation can become a turning point. A simple act of kindness can restore someone's hope. A sincere apology can repair a relationship. A moment of patience can prevent someone from making a decision they would later regret. You do not always need to know the outcome. Your responsibility is to remain willing, but remember this carefully. Being available to God does not mean allowing everyone to take advantage of you. It does not mean ignoring boundaries, chasing people who have rejected you, or trying to rescue everyone around you. There is a difference between loving someone and carrying a responsibility God never gave you. Jesus is the Savior. You are a vessel. You are a light. You are a person who can encourage another person to keep walking, but you cannot control their choices or guarantee their future. Give what God asks you to give, and then trust Him with what happens afterward. Perhaps you have been disappointed because you helped someone, and they never thanked you. Maybe you were there for someone during their darkest season, and when they became stronger, they disappeared from your life. Do not let that make you regret doing good. Your kindness does not become meaningless simply because someone failed to appreciate it. God saw it, and sometimes the reward for obedience is not immediate recognition. Sometimes the reward is knowing that you remained faithful to who God called you to be. There may also be people in your life right now who are quietly struggling. They may look successful. They may smile every day. They may post happy pictures. They may tell everyone, "I'm fine." But inside, they could be exhausted. This is why compassion matters. You never know what someone is carrying behind the face they show the world. So when God gives you an opportunity to encourage someone, do not dismiss it simply because it seems small. Be intentional with your words. Speak life instead of criticism. Choose understanding instead of quick judgment. Listen before you respond. And when you do not know what to say, sometimes your presence is enough. Chosen one, there may come a moment when someone tells you something deeply personal, and you realize they trusted you with a part of their story they rarely share. Treat that trust carefully. Do not turn their vulnerability into gossip. Do not use their weakness against them. Protect what they shared with you. That is what genuine love looks like. And perhaps this is part of the preparation God has been doing in you. You wondered why you had to become more patient. You wondered why certain experiences taught you humility. You wondered why your heart became more sensitive to the pain of others. Maybe those lessons were preparing you to recognize someone who needs compassion. You do not need to force destiny. You do not need to search desperately for the person who is waiting for you. Simply walk with God, pray, stay attentive, love people wisely. And when an opportunity appears, do not let fear immediately convince you to walk away. Maybe you have been praying for God to use you, but you expected Him to start with something huge. What if He starts with one person? One conversation, one prayer, one act of forgiveness, one moment when you decide to show love instead of anger. That one moment may not look important to the world, but God can see what it becomes. So do not underestimate yourself. You are not required to have everything figured out before God can work through you. You can still be growing and still encourage someone. You can still have unanswered prayers and still pray for another person. You can still be healing and still offer kindness. Your imperfections do not disqualify you from doing good. Chosen one, someone may be waiting for the very thing you almost stopped giving: your encouragement, your patience, your compassion, your testimony, your willingness to listen, your faith. So keep going. Do not close your heart because a few people hurt you. Do not become cold because some people took your kindness for granted. Do not let disappointment turn you into someone you were never meant to become. Ask God for discernment to recognize the right opportunities and wisdom to know when to step forward and when to step back. And when someone truly needs you, may you have the courage to respond with love. Because one day, you may discover that what felt like an ordinary moment was actually an answer to someone's prayer. And you may never know how important that moment was until much later. So today, walk differently. Look around you. Listen more carefully. Pray before you react. And remain open to the possibility that God can use your next conversation, your next act of kindness, or your next step of obedience to bring hope into someone else's life. You are not here by accident. Your life has value. Your presence can matter. And when God places an opportunity before you, do not run from it simply because it looks small. Sometimes the smallest acts of love carry the deepest meaning.